Welcome to Cambridge Inside Out. I'm Robert Winters.
Judy Nathans, after many absences.
That's right. We haven't seen you. You've been playing hooky.
Well, there was medical procedures, and there was holidays here.
Right.
And then there was a personal holiday. I was in Miami.
Yay.
My birthday, yeah.
Right.
So then here, now.
At least
4
somebody's
weeks.
going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no. 2 weeks before. Did see some action around it, but yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we've been carrying on.
Yeah,
as it were.
I know. I've been watching.
Yeah,
Patrick
I
is dutifully coming in for me.
Right. We went
With
from a
his
70
usual style.
We went from a 70-degree day to
Oh my
snowflakes within 24 hours.
Yeah,
That
well
was
now
pretty
it's going to be 50 tomorrow and then deep plunge on Friday, so it's crazy.
cool. Right.
Yeah.
So this is January 14th, 2020, which is it's taken me a little getting used to writing 2020.
I know, it always does that
or
first
typing,
month.
but actually,
Yeah.
sometimes when you go from like 2018 to 2019, I'm still in the last century.
Yeah. Right.
It's easy to kind of forget, if you write a check.
Yeah.
But there's something kind of easy about 2020. Yeah, just,
That's a good point. Is that
Yeah.
what you call? No, it's not a palindrome. What is it? It's nothing. It's just
It's
2020.
nothing. It's
But you
just
can
easy to
reverse
do.
it.
Yeah, and it's
2020.
just easy to do. Yeah. So I think I'm going to write my checks correctly so they won't bounce.
I mean, the last time was what, 1919? How does that
Yeah.
work? Yeah.
I don't know. I'm the math guy. I guess I'm supposed to know.
1818.
Yeah.
It'll be 2121. Oh, I
Right.
won't be around.
Well, I'm sure there's going to be every organization in creation is going to make
Oh.
references to their 2020 vision for the future.
Well, but 2020 is also the presidential election
Yeah,
year, so
yeah.
I think it's hard to not get away from that.
It's true enough. It's true enough.
Ooh.
Now, with a new year,
Mm-hmm.
right here on
We have everything new.
Not only is it a presidential election year, which is as national as it gets,
Yeah.
but here locally, we
We
did
have a
have an
new
election.
city council.
We have a
Well,
new city council,
Somewhat new. Mhm.
right?
New mayor.
7/9 old and 2/9 new,
Yeah, and new vice mayor.
and new mayor, so they
Well,
actually
you went over that last week too, because
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
you went to I wasn't here, but you went to
went
the
to the
inauguration.
inaugural. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, the first actual regular business meeting of Cambridge City Council
Was last night,
Last night, yeah. I was there for part of it.
I watched it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's I think it's kind of an interesting phenomenon when you see you see the people who've been on the council for a while
Yeah.
trying to assert dominance, right? Like, I'm going to be a player this time. The new people who are a little
Well, for a
tepid.
while, I mean, just one term, second term now. I mean, I don't know. Some of the oldest members of the council did not really say a whole lot.
Yeah,
except for Denise.
I could, I think I could give you some historical
right,
precedents
okay.
of people. One term
All
is
right.
enough to make somebody feel
Okay,
really
entitled.
feel
All
their
right.
oats.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
All right. There
That's
we go.
all it takes.
All right.
So there's a little bit of sort of
Yeah,
feeling
it's
each
like-
other out.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like any new group getting together, and this is
Yeah,
psychology
people are a little-
101. It's like it takes a while to gel, figure out who's
Yeah,
what.
yeah.
We've got
There's some be careful with your words, but
Yeah.
not too careful because you have to
Right.
show that you're assertive and a real mover shaker too.
Yeah.
So it's just sort of watching the little bit of the drama take place. I
Yeah.
still find it very interesting. The new mayor, Siddiqui, actually, it was, as in all new mayors who've never chaired before, there's always a little bit of,
Yeah.
they're always a little timid, a little hesitant, a little
Yeah.
careful, whatever, that's to be expected. All on balance, I thought
Yeah.
she handled herself well. She was
She'll-
courteous.
Yeah.
The most important thing for a mayor actually is to
Yeah.
be courteous of the other members of the council, I think.
Right.
Give them the right time, defer to them whenever. And as I remember Alice Wolfe used to do, and I've quoted this practice in the past, if you're in the mayor and you're up at the rostrum,
Yes.
and you really want to make a point fervently,
Yeah.
hand the gavel to somebody else and take a councilor's seat. That's
Ah.
actually the better way to do it.
How often does that happen?
Alice Wolfe used to do it regularly. There were some
Wow.
other counselors over the years who would do that.
Hmm.
It's sort of like saying, like, I'm not going to be,
Dictating
taking.
you from the
Yeah,
high.
yeah.
I'm going to be part of this.
Yeah, it's sort of the height of arrogance of a mayor to sort of use that
Yeah.
position just to make really loud, screamy speeches. Much better if you really want to make a point.
Yeah.
Just step down from the podium,
Yeah.
hand the gavel, and do it the right way. So,
Hmm.
but for the most part, the mayor really sort of just sort of
Sets a tone.
sets a
in
tone,
way.
and I thought she set a pretty good tone.
Yeah. I mean, for the first. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's also she'd already chaired her first school committee,
Oh, the
didn't
school
she, like,
committee, yeah.
last week?
And there
even?
was actually
Yeah.
a communication from the mayor.
I saw that. That was
regarding-
unusual, wasn't it?
I think the previous mayor actually did that
Really? I
initially
don't
too,
remember
but I don't know if the practice was
continues,
maintained,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
And I think that's a sort of a good idea.
it is,
You
yeah.
know, and I don't know, you know, there is a sort of point of view that under the planning charter, the school committee's business and the council business are completely separate, except when it comes to the budget. When the
Except
coun-
then you shouldn't have a member of the city council sit as the chair of the school committee. To
Yeah.
me, that's,
Yeah.
already you're saying
mean,
there's a relationship.
Well, I think the relationship is supposed to be via the mayor. The mayor is
Oh,
supposed
okay.
to be the conduit.
Well, that's what she was doing when she presented
Yeah.
the minutes, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess you could do a link. I think it'd be important to do some kind of link to, because most people don't pay attention, or they're not gonna go to the school committee site to get what happened. Might be nice to have a link, even if
Right.
it's in her, which I assume she'll do weekly, her newsletter, like a lot of them do.
Well, the outgoing city council in their very last meeting on December 16th
Uh-huh.
passed some policy order that was specifically saying, this is what we think you ought to do as far as budgeting for the school department, you know, in terms of funding certain initiatives and whatever. You know, which is, you know, in years gone by, you wouldn't have even heard anything like that, because that would have, if I was on the school committee, I would have viewed that as sort of stepping on my turf.
But weren't there
But,
two city councilors that voted against the school budget? Was Greg Kelly and
you know,
Clinton, maybe?
And it's not the
Yeah.
first time we've gone through that sort of dynamic.
Yeah.
You know,
Making a
I'm
statement,
kind of getting a feeling that we're heading toward more of that kind of dynamic.
Paying more attention to that.
Paying more
Yeah.
attention.
Yeah.
Again, it's really only the budgetary matters where they can really
Right, have
effectively
some
do
input.
it.
Uh-huh.
So I think with, there's these budget retreats, I think there's one happening
Tonight,
tonight.
right,
And
which
then-
is not, the public, I don't think, is invited
There's a
at all.
public one that's happening on a Saturday, an upcoming
Okay, so this one
Saturday.
is like, almost like going into executive session, is that what it
Yeah,
is? Yeah.
so I think is it this coming Saturday or the following
That's the public
Saturday
one.
will be a public one.
Okay.
You know, I mean, they're all public meetings, anybody could show up.
But why do
but-
they call this one a retreat when it's in town?
You know, I have
It's right-
always
it's
been
right at the-
curious.
It's right there, it's
Yeah.
at the high school.
You know, city council has had retreats. you
Yeah,
know,
but
where
they actually physically go away somewhere, don't they?
Yeah, but you know, it's always.
Well, not go away, but they have it, it's not on the night of the school, it's not on the night of their meeting.
Right, but when a city council has a retreat, they sometimes do it at some hotel, and I guess technically it's
Oh,
a
yeah.
public meeting, but it's almost like they're going out of their way to be out of
I,
the way.
but wait a minute, I don't
Mm.
think retreats are public meetings.
You know, that's a curious thing because.
It's an executive session, and as it should be. Why should the public be invited to their deliberations?
Because there is no deliberations at a
Oh.
retreat. I mean, it's
Oh.
supposed to sort of
What is it?
facilitate
Setting
sort of getting them
goals?
to work together, do
Okay,
goal
so,
setting.
yeah, well, I'm sorry, I think that should be done as a group. The public can pipe in afterwards.
Well, in
that's my
terms of
feeling.
goal
I don't know.
setting, I thought maybe they would want to hear the public.
I'm sure,
input
I'm
too.
sure they get it every day in their
I'm
emails,
sure.
you know?
I've just found it to be sort of curiosity.
I don't know.
is,
All right, so
we're
I
gonna-
don't,
We're gonna do a
so
retreat.
we'll
you know.
find out whether the one to,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm pretty.
Yeah. Now, I don't.
I know it's not being video recorded, so that to
Uh,
me tells you something right there.
That's true.
So
That's
then
true.
why there would be public there, I don't know. Maybe that's why.
I don't know. I don't know.
We'll find out, we'll get the
Now
answer.
there were some items of interest of
Last night,
of substance, but you know honestly for a first meeting,
yeah,
you're lucky if you even get more than 3 or 4 city council orders because certainly
and there were only,
the new
there were
people
only a
aren't
few,
so eager.
right.
And you know they're still sort of feeling things out a little bit. So I think there was only about 4 of them. The
There
one
were
that was
4.
most
The tree
turned
ordinance,
into a
yeah.
bit of a contentious moment.
Mhm.
Kind of it was interesting, kind of almost like a signal about the tone
Yeah,
for the
I
future meetings and
yeah.
the future council.
Yeah, mhm.
So basically, the thrust of the order was it was just simple. It was saying that the last year in the spring, or just before spring, the city council
It was
passed
before
this
spring.
a tree moratorium. I think they did it
Right.
in late February.
Well, the
early
report was supposed to
March.
be in June, so wasn't it a 6, I don't know, something like
Right.
that,
So
yeah.
the thing is, since we were waiting to get a report
Yeah.
from this urban
Master
forest master plan
task plan,
task
right.
force,
Urban
whatever.
Forest Master
Yeah,
Plan, yeah.
they said, well, pending that, let's impose this moratorium on the cutting of trees.
Right, for
And,
a year, right?
for a year,
Yeah.
yeah. And, and it was very contentious at the time.
Yes.
And then the report was supposed to be due in June. Apparently, it didn't get prepared until much later.
December they got it.
So now they're saying, well, rather than actually hustle up and
Because we have to
make some
discuss the
decisions,
report or something, or?
yeah, that they want instead, because I think they're going to have some meeting of the Health and Environment Committee next week.
Well, that's the
to deal
oh,
with
was
that.
that scheduled anyway? Yeah, it was scheduled anyway.
I didn't
You're
see
right.
it on the schedule, but it has been
Yeah,
scheduled.
no, yeah.
And so they'll do that. But the thing is that it's doubtful that they're actually going to come up with some amendments to the overall ordinance about tree protection.
Well, right now I thought it was just about.
So they're just buying time now.
Yeah.
The order was just to extend the deadline, right? Or the effective date of the moratorium to the end of the calendar year.
Right.
Right.
So it'd be adding another more than 6 months, 7 months.
Yeah. So it's
Right, instead of March, it would be
the greater
December.
part of a
Yeah.
year to it. So, and there's a little bit one could make the case that that's a little bit of a breach of faith because this was supposed to be just a
Well,
temporary
it's for
moratorium.
emergencies. as
Right. Well, they work
Mark
it out,
McGovern, yeah.
but then they kind of rolled it in, put another like 8
Yeah.
months on it, and I think there's kind of they're implying that this shouldn't simply be extended indefinitely. They really got to
Well, I think
Take
Mark brought up
action.
the point, which I think was that they have no data from DPW about how they see it going and what
Right.
there was some talk, and I guess I should have paid more attention about something about 300 requests to put to
And most-
remove trees and how many were accepted. Or I
Yeah,
don't know.
but today I was seeing maybe on some social media platform
Maybe that's
somebody
where I
was
was
saying how
looking.
they'd worked something out with a neighbor about the removal of a tree because somebody
Yeah.
wanted to put up some solar panels, whatever.
Oh wait, I saw that as a comment
Yeah.
from an article. So what did?
And then apparently
no, it was denied.
and it was denied.
I know.
Yeah.
So.
So in other
That
words-
plus also something about they're not allowed to go on private property, the city or
Right.
something. So how do you have to pay for an inspector
Right.
to see if the tree
Yeah.
is dead?
Yeah. So
No, that should be up to the city. If you
Um,
could, if before you could do it without involving the city, without a moratorium, then you could do it. And then, but now if you have to get permission, why should you have to pay to get the permission?
I think you have to pay to have the arborist make the determination whether something meets the criteria of either.
But why do we
sick or
pay
dying.
for an inspectional service person to come if you think, I don't know, do you pay for Airbnb, like for them to inspect your house?
If you need a certificate of occupancy.
You pay
or-
really? Did they do pay, or you have to register, but I don't think they pay the
you pay a-
inspectional service, do you?
You pay a fee for most of these things.
You do?
Even like I own a triple decker and I have to have an inspection every 5 years or something like that. I forget what the actual
So
term
you pay
is.
the city for the
And
inspection?
then they say you got to fork over $100
Okay.
to have them.
So
And
there's
it's probably-
always a
they
fee
probably
involved for
increased it.
them, for you to get a permit
Yeah,
for something?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, even I
alright.
have to pay for the inspection even,
Okay.
So anyway, that's the way it works. So anyway, it was sort of a
Yeah,
contentious argument.
Yeah,
I think you were kind of seeing some of the people lining up on the
well,
sides of the issue.
Yeah.
I mean, my own personal preference is I would love to see a city council this term who thinks practically, who actually is sensitive to actual human beings and
Not
you know,
just
and
certain
they're not just being
constituencies. Yeah.
ideologues about things. And and I've always felt in terms of something like tree removals, if you have a reasonable case, and in other words, it's not necessarily a dire emergency, but if you have a very reasonable
Well, the
case,
one about the solar panels.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
the parties agreed they were going to replace it with a different kind of tree.
Exactly.
They had the money to do it, I guess,
Yeah.
but then it was denied. So that
Right.
to
So-
me
so
seems
to me,
crazy. Yeah.
a future ordinance
Yeah.
should allow reasonable
These-
people to do reasonable things.
But what I heard also from Patty Nolan and maybe, that it should no longer exempt affordable housing, city-owned property, all that.
That was
That was a
actually
biggie.
during that overlay
Yeah.
discussion last year.
Well, that
that
came
was
up
one
there
of the
too,
arguments
yeah.
people were making. They say, well,
Yeah.
in fact, one could argue that
Yeah.
people use trees as kind of like a lever.
Mm.
Saying we oppose the overlay because of the effect
Yeah.
on trees,
Well,
as
it's
opposed to
yeah.
we just think it's not good planning.
Right.
But you have to use trees sort of as
Well,
the criteria. Right?
not the whole thing, but
Yeah,
it
but
depends on who.
but you know there are
Yeah.
exemptions for public housing or affordable housing.
But also
projects
just for
or whatever.
city-owned property itself, and I guess
So
yeah.
the bearing the burden of this ordinance was really left on private homeowners, and a lot of people feel that's misplaced. But I mean, there's a place for you. Don't want to have somebody clear. If you have a large yard with 12
Yeah.
magnificent trees, you don't want to have people just clear cutting, in order.
That's
to
a big
pave over
yard
the
if you
yard.
have 12.
I mean, I know I'm overstating.
You're talking
about, But listen, I got a tiny yard, but I've got
Yeah.
3 trees.
Isn't
and
one of them being used by Eversource or somebody?
One is being used as a
Still?
utility pole still.
Haven't you haven't gotten
Yeah.
that resolved?
And
Oh my
no,
gosh.
no.
That's crazy.
NeverSource, yeah, it's or never finish.
So could
EverSource never
you
finish.
ask for that tree to be cut down?
I think that if I made the case, maybe I would get the approval, but I think more than likely they would just demand that it get pruned back and take a leader off or whatever.
Right, but why are they using your tree? Is it your tree?
Yeah.
Well,
it's in
then
my yard.
they should be paying you.
Well, I mean, apparently it's not my tree because if it was my tree, I could do what I want.
Well, that's
with
true.
it.
It's not your tree.
So apparently it's Quentin
All right.
Zondervan's tree.
All right. Okay. Then
So-
he should deal with Eversource
I
for
think
you.
actually Quentin Zondervan should
Yeah.
pay the fees.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that would be my modest proposal.
No, because you don't want to take it down. do you?
No, I think
Oh
he,
wait,
he has,
don't you have a tree
but
that's
he
in
has
danger?
great respect
Oh.
for arborists and trees, and I think he
Yeah.
would be more than happy to fund them.
Yeah. Well, but he doesn't want Eversource using your tree. I mean. that
Oh
would
no, no,
It's
because
evil.
that's right. I'm not unless I have exclusively solar power.
You need. There's a
electricity
columnist in
coming
the
through the
Globe. I
wires.
forget his name, Thomas Farrar, whatever. Takes on these little human interest stories. I think that's
Right.
a good one.
And maybe
He could take
yeah,
on
listen,
Eversource for insane.
I just sort of think it's a handy thing to sort of point out some of the absurdity of some
Yeah,
of the city
well.
policies. It's sort of tough having a government run, or at least an elected body run by zealots sometimes, and where they don't really necessarily look at things practically. And again,
Well.
getting back to the original point, I'm kind of hopeful,
Yeah.
and I think I
that they'll
saw
be-
some indications that we
Yeah.
actually may have some practicalists
Yeah.
peppered in amongst the ideologues.
Well, it's interesting on the vote to have it. What was the vote on the amendment? Was something failed and only Clinton?
So the thing is that
Rajiv
it was Mark McGovern,
Yeah.
Alana Mallon, and several
Right.
others basically said we
and
think
Sumbul. Yeah.
it's a perfectly reasonable thing
Right.
to actually refer this to the Health and Environment Committee
Oh, right.
to at least discuss the propriety of the length of the extension or whether there's any modifications that should be made even prior to the extension, even before.
But I thought it was already going to be going to the committee.
Well, see, that's where
It's
Councilor
confusing.
Zondervan got very slick, I have to say.
Yeah.
A question, a person who's always normally was all for having process and whatever, seemed to really be offended by the concept that you'd actually send this to committee for further discussion because I want it now, right?
Well, what
Which
would
is
be
kinda
the
funny.
alternative?
Anyway, he
to
lost
just-
the vote.
Okay, so what if the vote had passed? What would that have meant? That it would go right to ordinance?
If then they would have
No,
just
not ordinance. It just would.
they
it
would
be?
have they would have passed it to a second reading as
Second
a municipal
reading.
ordinance
It would be
because it's
okay.
not part of zoning, and
To amend, you'd have to amend the ordinance. It'd be an amendment,
no,
right?
no.
To lengthen the time.
right, but that is in itself an ordinance too.
Okay, all right.
Right, so
Okay.
then he wanted to just pass it to a second reading.
Without
and
a
then
discussion.
And at the next
Yeah.
regular meeting,
Okay.
or at least after the advertising requirement passes, then it would just become ordained. And then the tree moratorium would
Yeah.
be extended to the end of the calendar year.
So what I don't understand is if that report eventually did come out in December, it's January, is it out there for people to read?
Yes.
That urban? Okay.
Yeah,
So is it already,
Well,
if it's
council's
out
gonna
there,
talk
then
about
why do you not have the march? Because does the report say we
I
still
don't-
have an emergency?
Maybe it's.
Have you read it?
Maybe,
I haven't looked at it.
in contrast with our new, Speedy Gonzalez mayor, who made council committee appointments
Oh,
in
right.
record time.
Yeah.
Apparently, the chair of
Yeah.
the Health
Health
and Environment Committee
is-
feels that it may take a very long time in order to settle on the matter of the tree protection
Who is
ordinance.
the new chair?
Quentin Zondervan. So,
Oh. Okay.
so so in other words, if the big concern is that if the tree cutting moratorium were to expire at the end of February or into March,
People would hurry up and,
then as soon as it expires, before they put something else in place, people would
I
quick
see, cut
run
down
out
those
there with
trees,
an
yeah.
axe. Yeah.
Which some people are probably doing without you knowing unless somebody reports you,
I
right?
think when there was even discussion about imposing a moratorium, I know personally people who actually went out and cut down trees. Because they said we don't,
We don't wanna
and
deal
they
with
weren't,
this,
they weren't,
yeah.
they weren't bad faith actors. It's just
Yeah.
that they said, I don't want to have to deal with all the hassle.
And also, to do it, also the ordinance, if you did do it, you had to have somebody professional do it, you couldn't do it yourself
They
and all
put a
that stuff.
lot of
Yeah,
bureaucratic
yeah.
burden and
Couldn't
cost.
believe how much it cost in that one thing I read, $6,000 to remove a tree? Seriously?
I could have had a leader off of my ash tree.
Yeah,
They would have to bring in a big crane to do it. It would
Oh,
cost
I
me
heard-
about $4,000.
that's crazy.
If it didn't require the big crane that reaches over the house,
I see,
like something in a
yeah,
Japanese horror movie from the 50s,
yeah.
it would have been a lot less.
I mean, I know personally someone who just, because he knows what he's doing with his saw,
You just
just
go up
goes
there.
up and,
That ain't me.
it hasn't recently, but I'm just saying, just take off limbs and does it carefully and no one's gotten
you can
hurt.
do
and-
that. I mean, one
Oh.
interesting thing that I think is true, unless I mean, it's not like every homeowner should be required to read every detail of every ordinance. That seems a little burdensome.
Yeah.
But trimming a tree, pruning a tree, even if that pruning took half the tree away,
Yeah,
I don't think that's a violation.
so you can still do that.
I think you could take
Yeah,
off.
it's mainly, I think, cutting
Yeah.
anything that's bigger than 8
It's-
inches, cutting the
it's
whole tree down,
wiping
right?
the whole tree, yeah.
Yeah.
But if you were to take off a significant part of a tree, I don't think that's prohibited.
Yeah,
And I'm sure there's a few people who are more than happy to take off like 3/4 of a tree, leaving just enough so that it'll die the rest of the way, right?
oh,
As
no, but if
workable.
it's really gonna die, then you're gonna be able to get it removed.
No, but the thing is, there used to be a rule I heard. Actually, it was a former city councilor told me that when you want to prune back a tree, you
Yeah.
shouldn't be pruning back more than like a third.
Oh, so if you did more, then it
Yeah.
will die?
Yeah, because then it wouldn't have enough means to support itself. Some trees are different than others. There's some
Okay.
trees you can cut them down to nothing and they'll just pop
That's
right back.
true.
But not all trees are like that. So anyway, so that was the most contentious thing, and in the end, it was a 6-2 to 1 vote to
Oh, 'cause
not
Carlone-
to refer it
wonder how
to
Carlone
for
would've
further
voted,
discussion.
yeah.
Right, and it was new councilor Jivan Sabrina Wheeler and Quentin Zondervan were the
That's-
two who
yeah.
didn't want any further public
Yeah.
input.
I think that's
on the
gonna
issue.
be a duo we might see a lot.
I think so.
Maybe not.
This is
We'll see.
this is the Our Revolution contingent, I think.
Is he really a representative of that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah,
on
but
the
so
other hand,
is, but so is
Patty
Patty
Nolan
endorsed,
was-
and
yeah,
so is,
yeah.
no, Simple was
Right.
not, because, but,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
We'll
some of these
see.
sort of shifting affiliations in
yeah,
there.
yeah.
We'll sort of see how things shake out. But
Oh,
so anyway, that was the main stuff. As I mentioned, the in past terms when a mayor was selected, even when a mayor was selected on Inauguration Day, as opposed to some of our fabulous delayed
Yeah.
mayoral elections,
mm,
the longest of which took over 1,000 ballots.
wow,
This was back in the days of Mickey the Dude Sullivan.
jeez.
So back then, it was, well, not even back then, but even in relatively recent years, mayors selected, it might take several weeks before they officially release the list. And then, and they wouldn't even do it before the meeting itself. You had to wait till the end of the meeting, and then you'd have to go into the mayor's office, and then they'd hand you a copy of something on paper. To her amazing credit, Mayor Siddiqui, within 3 days, had everything done and
Yeah.
published for public consumption.
She obviously did her homework and met with people, because you meet with people, you don't
Honestly,
just assign people, do
All you
you?
really have to do is be able to listen to what people's preferences were,
Yeah.
and if somebody
Right.
adamantly says, "I definitely want to be on this," or "I definitely don't
want-
want to be
yeah,
on this,"
right.
or "I would really like to chair," as long as it's not really serious competition,
Yep,
it doesn't have to take a long time, and there's no reason why to kind of have it dangling out there
Yeah.
while you're trying to
any
place it in.
surprises on the committee assignments?
I didn't think there was any surprises. The one thing that I kind of had my eye on, I still have
Yeah.
my eye on, is the
Yeah.
Government Operations Committee. And the reason for that is that, and we talked about in this program last week, is that We are now 1 year away from the expiration of the contract with the city manager.
Oh.
And what that means is during this year, the Government Operations Committee, by tradition, will initiate the process to look on whether to extend the contract. And I think the notification date is sometime toward fall.
Okay.
Or whether they're going to desire to seek a different city manager.
Interesting.
With every additional more revolutionary type of person added to the council, the likelihood of them
Well,
want to sort of trying to do a radical change in city administration
yeah,
increases.
but I don't see quite that much of a vote against that, especially with the new.
I mean, I think
I could see maybe 2, maybe 3, but not beyond that.
I mean, if I was a betting man today, I would say,
Stay the course in a
Louis
certain way.
DePasquale wishes to remain, he
I mean, maybe he
probably-
doesn't want to remain. We don't know that either.
we don't know.
Right?
But the thing is that would his successor, in that case, be somebody within the city administration or somebody
Right.
from outside? That
Right.
becomes the issue.
Right.
And I really don't know. And if he does choose to remain, will that translate into basically there's a dynamic where city councilors say, well, I really would like this, Mr. City Manager. And if a contract's coming up soon, the manager's more likely to go, well,
Yeah.
maybe we should deliver the goods here because...
I think he's delivered a lot of things
I
that
think
people
he's-
want, or at least he says he wants to do it.
I think
Yeah.
so. I mean,
Yeah, but
Louis DePasquale is pretty good at sort of
yeah,
meeting people's needs, and whether that translates in the long term into escalating budgets, because
Yeah.
if you try and make everybody happy, it
Seems to
doesn't come
be-
cheap.
that's right.
So I mean, that's something I'm going to personally be watching, is to see,
Yeah.
even in the budget cycle, when the budget hearings arrive, budget will arrive late April typically, and they'll have budget hearings in May. We'll see whether there's a bigger than expected increase in the city budget,
Yep.
and whether everybody's wish lists are being met by Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Right.
So quickly, when does the city council go over their goals and stuff for the year?
I don't know. The thing is, it's sometimes irregular, but
I see.
they will likely be coming up on that very.
Do we have a
soon.
list of what the goals were last time?
Yep, they're posted.
All right,
so.
we'll look at that.
All right. Anyway, we'll be back in a few minutes on
All
Cambridge
right.
Inside Out.
Bye.